Little did they know that they were possibly standing face to face with an actual time traveler. The man's name was Sergei Ponomarenko, and when the police asked him for his ID, he handed it to them, and the first thing they noticed was that it was issued from a country that didn't exist anymore, the Soviet Union.
There are many concepts in the annals of human history that defy all logic and reason, and time travel may be one of the most disturbing of these, as experts have strong evidence of it. In 2006, a real time traveler appeared from the 1950s, while another man claimed to have traveled to the year 2045 and returned with frightening predictions about our future. Who is this strange man traveling to different eras, and what are the implications of time travel paradoxes? Join us as we explore the fascinating story of Sergei Ponomarenko's first real experience of time travel. The enigmatic arrival of Sergei. On April 23, 2006, a man was observed on a street in Kyiv, the capital of Ukraine, attired in an anachronistic Soviet military uniform and carrying an antiquated camera. His peculiar behavior attracted considerable attention. His attire, which was no longer socially acceptable, was particularly provocative given the historical tensions between Ukraine and Russia, even prior to the conflict. This situation was reminiscent of an individual donning a Nazi uniform in Israel, an act certain to incite a vehement reaction. Bystanders began casting apprehensive glances at him, which only exacerbated the man's anxiety, leading to increasingly erratic behavior. Fortunately, a nearby police patrol noticed him and approached for further inquiry. The bewildered individual claimed to be lost and unaware of his location. When the officers requested identification, he produced an ID that left them perplexed. The document was issued by the Soviet Union, a state that had ceased to exist years prior. Ukraine, once a constituent of the Soviet Union, had established itself as an independent nation, rendering such IDs obsolete. This situation would have been less astonishing had the individual appeared to be in his 70s. However, he seemed to be in his 20s, complicating the circumstances further. The officers noted an additional twist regarding his identity. The identification indicated a birth year of 1932, and the photograph matched his current appearance. The ID appeared authentic, complete with the official Soviet government seal, and bore the name Sergei Ponomarenko, with Kyiv listed as his birthplace. This revelation left the police utterly confounded. According to the ID, the man should have been 74 years old, yet he presented as a person in his 20s or early 30s. When one officer casually inquired about the current date, Sergei confidently responded that it was April 23, 1958. At this juncture, the police deduced that Sergei required psychiatric evaluation. Despite Sergei's insistence on his mental stability, his continued references to the Soviet Union intensified their skepticism. The police offered him two alternatives: incarceration or admission to a psychiatric facility. Sergei chose the latter, and he was subsequently transported to a mental health institution. Upon arrival, Sergei was introduced to Dr. Paul Krov, a psychologist. After a brief discussion with the police, Dr. Krov escorted Sergei to his office. Once inside, Sergei appeared captivated by his surroundings, examining everything with great curiosity, as if it were entirely foreign to him. During their dialogue, Sergei stated that he was born on June 16, 1932, and maintained that he was only 25 years old. He explained that his passion for photography was the reason for carrying the camera. Dr. Krov, opting to engage with Sergei's narrative, inquired about how he purportedly traveled to the future. Sergei recounted, "It was a bright day, and I decided to walk around the city with my camera. Upon stepping outside, I noticed an unusual bell-shaped object hovering in the sky. It moved in a peculiar manner, and describing it with words seemed impossible. Instinctively, like any photographer, I aimed my camera and took a shot. The moment I clicked, I found myself standing on these unfamiliar streets of Kyiv. I hadn't moved or done anything else. I merely took my hands off the camera, and suddenly I was here." Intrigued, Dr. Krov examined Sergei's camera and the images within. The camera was an antique Yashima Flex, utilizing film that had not been produced since the 1970s. Acknowledging the limitations of his expertise, Dr. Krov sought the assistance of Vadim Poer, a professional photographer, to further investigate this enigma. Upon Vadim's arrival at the designated location, he was taken aback to discover that Sergei's camera was documenting his every movement. Vadim observed that Sergei was utilizing the first 120 dual-lens reflex camera, manufactured by Yashima in 1953. Upon closer examination, he noted that the film reel, which dated back to 1956, remained in remarkably good condition. Initially, Vadim speculated that Sergei might be an avid collector, as some photographers take pleasure in employing vintage equipment. However, Sergei's camera presented a distinctive amalgamation of antiquity and modernity. Another intriguing detail was that the specific type of film accompanying this camera had long since ceased production, yet it was preserved within the camera in pristine condition. This revelation left the observers in a state of perplexity. Dr. Krov subsequently requested Vadim to develop some photographs to ascertain whether the UFO Sergei had mentioned was captured on film. The results were indeed shocking. The creation of this photograph proved to be a significant challenge, particularly given that it had been originally captured in 1956. The image was only produced recently, following Vadim's considerable efforts in its development. Upon completion, he discovered the bell-shaped UFO in the photograph, precisely as Sergei had described. When Dr. Krov inquired about the UFO depicted in the photograph, Sergei confidently asserted, "Now you are convinced I'm telling the truth. I still do not understand what this object is or how such a phenomenon occurred when I took the picture and ended up in this year." Among the developed photographs, some illustrated the streets of Kiev as they appeared in the 1950s, while one image prominently featured Sergei himself standing outside a building in 1956. Notably, Sergei's film had undergone no preservation methods, yet the resulting photographs were remarkably clear. Several photos remained to be developed, a process that was time-consuming. To prevent Sergei from escaping, he was placed in a separate room under constant surveillance, with security cameras installed throughout the facility for additional security. Later that day, after all the photographs had been developed, the team sought answers from Sergei. However, he had vanished without a trace. Upon visiting his room, the police reviewed the security footage for clues. The recordings confirmed that Sergei had entered the room, yet there was no footage of him exiting. Initially, the assumption was that he had managed to slip out undetected, prompting a review of all nearby camera footage. To their astonishment, there was not a single image of Sergei captured anywhere. It appeared he had genuinely disappeared. Dr. Paul, the psychiatrist, subsequently proposed an examination of the photographs to uncover potential clues regarding Sergei's whereabouts. This suggestion appeared sound, prompting a thorough scrutiny of all images in search of relevant evidence. Progress was limited until a photograph surfaced depicting Sergei alongside a woman. Dr. Paul sought the assistance of local law enforcement to pursue further investigation. The police commenced their inquiry by reviewing the household registration records. During this investigation, they identified a file pertaining to an individual named Sergei, who had mysteriously disappeared in 1960. Additionally, they recognized the woman in the photograph as Sergei's wife, Valentina Kurik, who is currently 74 years old. The police promptly arranged for her to be interviewed. Upon engaging with Valentina, she presented a photo album and revealed an image of herself with Sergei from 1958, which coincidentally matched the photograph discovered in Sergei's camera in 2006. Dr. Kov then showed Valentina the photo and recounted the unusual circumstances surrounding it. She expressed astonishment upon seeing the image and hearing the narrative. Valentina confirmed to the doctor that Sergei's account was indeed accurate. She recounted that Sergei had vanished for several days in April 1958, leaving her in a state of distress and on the brink of contacting the authorities. he reappeared suddenly without any explanation. Although relieved by his return, Valentina noted that Sergei exhibited peculiar behavior upon his arrival, displaying considerable anxiety. He consistently refused to provide answers regarding his absence and insisted that she refrain from discussing those days. This strange conduct persisted for 2 years until his final disappearance in 1960. That year, Sergei finally confided in Valentina about his enigmatic absence, revealing that he had been trapped in 2006 during the days he was missing. Following this extraordinary disclosure, Sergei vanished once more, this time without returning. Valentina never saw him again but received a letter from him, which included a photograph of a bearded man appearing to be in his 40s. Subsequent investigations determined that the photo was taken in a park by the Dnipro River, the principal river in Kiev, Ukraine. Notably, the tall buildings visible across the river did not resemble those currently under construction. Although the location remained the same, the absence of the buildings suggested that the photograph was likely taken in the future. A handwritten message on the reverse side of the photo read, "I am good at everything, and I will try to come back." This revelation compounded the confusion, indicating that Sergei not only traversed time, but also possessed a means of communication with individuals in the past, effectively positioning him as a time traveler. This scenario raises numerous inquiries. How is this phenomenon conceivable? Is time travel a tangible possibility? The forthcoming exploration aims to elucidate the process of time travel and examine existing theories that support its plausibility. The concept of time travel, often viewed with skepticism, is a subject of serious theoretical inquiry. Recent explorations have proposed that time travel is indeed possible. A notable paper published in Classical and Quantum Gravity in September 2020 introduced a theoretical framework for backward time travel. The authors engaged with Einstein's theory of relativity, presenting calculations that suggest an object could theoretically navigate through space and time along a circular trajectory, thereby returning to its original point of departure. This phenomenon is referred to by Einstein as a closed time-like curve. However, the discourse surrounding time travel is fraught with paradoxes, particularly the grandfather paradox, which raises significant questions about the plausibility of such temporal excursions. It appears that any attempt to create a temporal inconsistency would be corrected by the timeline itself, thereby avoiding contradictions. While this paper represents an intriguing theoretical endeavor, it resonates with the principle of determinism, implying that the universe inherently adjusts to any alterations, akin to a GPS recalibrating a route following a missed exit. This raises critical questions about the mechanisms that facilitate this realignment and preserve the continuity of reality. Are these forces rooted in fundamental quantum interactions, the very fabric of the universe, or do they stem from an entirely different source? Regrettably, the prospect of empirically testing these theories through the deployment of instruments or human subjects in closed time loops remains distant. Until such advancements can be made, speculation will continue, as it has for centuries. The fascination with time travel is not a contemporary phenomenon. It has been a recurrent theme in literature, exemplified by the ancient Sanskrit epic Mahabharata, which explores concepts of time travel. This enduring interest may stem from humanity's intrinsic relationship with time, an omnipresent force that we cannot evade. It advances unceasingly, and we are perpetually subject to its passage. The ultimate aspiration is to transcend this temporal limitation. As noted by Lisa Yasek, a professor of science fiction studies at the Georgia Institute of Technology, in a 2022 interview with Live Science, narratives surrounding time travel enable us to conceptualize liberation from linear time, thereby offering fresh insights into human existence. This perspective may elucidate the persistent allure of time travel stories and the resonance of urban legends, such as that of Sergei, with the public. Despite the disorientation and confusion often depicted in such narratives, There exists a shared yearning to escape the confines of time. The account of Sergei illustrates the notion of instantaneous travel, wherein he is purportedly transported by a UFO at the speed of light and subsequently returned to Earth decades later. This scenario serves as a practical illustration of Einstein's theory of relativity, a foundational concept likely familiar to many. In 1905, Einstein unveiled his special theory of relativity, fundamentally altering our comprehension of time and motion. He demonstrated that moving clocks exhibit a slower passage of time compared to stationary ones. Consequently, if an individual were to embark on a journey into the future, traveling at 99.9995% of the speed of light for a distance of 50 light-years before returning to Earth, they would experience only a year of elapsed time, despite 100 years passing on Earth. This phenomenon is not merely theoretical, it has been empirically validated. For example, when an extremely precise clock is placed on an aircraft and flown in the direction of Earth's rotation, it will register a slight lag upon landing compared to clocks on the ground. This effect serves as a practical demonstration of special relativity. Furthermore, astronauts experience this time dilation effect, operating within a temporal framework that is 0.02 seconds ahead of individuals on Earth. Albert Einstein expanded upon his groundbreaking concepts in 1915 with the introduction of the theory of general relativity. This theory posits that gravity is a geometric property of four-dimensional space-time. Essentially, it suggests that time progresses more slowly in regions of intense gravitational fields, a phenomenon known as gravitational time dilation. A compelling illustration of this concept is depicted in the film Interstellar, in which the character portrayed by Matthew McConaughey and his team land on a planet situated near a black hole. The immense gravitational force exerted by the black hole results in a significant slowing of time on the planet. Consequently, for every hour spent on that planet, 7 years elapse on Earth. The notion of time travel, whether to the future or the past, would necessitate extraordinary energy, comparable to the energy levels associated with black holes or supernovae. Currently, our technological capabilities are insufficient to achieve such feats. However, it is conceivable that an advanced civilization might possess the technology to harness such energies, akin to the unidentified flying object, UFO, that Sergei encountered. Dr. Kov, a psychiatrist, upon hearing Sergei's account and examining the photograph of the bell-shaped object over Kyiv, contemplated the possibility that Sergei may have been abducted by extraterrestrial beings, either intentionally or unintentionally. In evaluating the circumstances surrounding Sergei's appearance in 2006, Dr. Kov also referenced Einstein's theory of relativity, speculating whether Sergei might have been transported to another galaxy at the speed of light, and subsequently returned to Earth at an incorrect temporal point. What felt like mere seconds to Sergei could have entailed decades in reality. This hypothesis may provide an explanation for the events surrounding Sergei's photograph of the UFO. Could it be that Sergei inadvertently traversed a wormhole or a rift in the fabric of space-time simply by capturing the image? The UFO may have possessed the requisite energy to facilitate such an occurrence. However, one must question why only Sergei experienced this phenomenon. Was he merely an unintended observer as the craft passed by? If that were the case, how did he return to his original timeline from 2006 without the assistance of the spacecraft? Furthermore, how did he manage to travel to the future again to communicate with his wife? The more one investigates this narrative, the more questions emerge. It is crucial to emphasize that the discussions surrounding this story are fictional. This narrative is part of a television series titled Aliens, which aired in 2012 on the Ukrainian channel 1+1. The series comprised 10 episodes, with this particular storyline featured in the third episode, Time Traveler. Other episodes explored various themes related to extraterrestrial encounters and phenomena. The television series Aliens, broadcast on the Ukrainian station 1+1, delved into tales of the strange and supernatural, addressing topics such as abductions, levitation, phantoms, and crop circles. What makes this discussion particularly captivating is the fact that each episode commenced with a clear disclaimer. This disclaimer served to elucidate that the theories presented throughout the series were intended to reconstruct scenes related to highly controversial subjects. It was explicitly stated that any theories or hypotheses put forth should not be regarded as definitive or accurate representations of reality, highlighting the necessity for further scientific investigation to validate or refute these claims. The show made it abundantly clear that all scene reconstructions were grounded in witness testimonies, yet there was no conclusive evidence to support the existence of extraterrestrial beings. Therefore, it follows that any theory introduced during the program should be treated with caution and not accepted as fact. Furthermore, the series underscored that these reconstructions were, in essence, dramatizations, suggesting that Sergei's photographs and videos, which can be found across various online platforms, are likely staged. For example, take the photograph of Sergei standing by the river. This image has been identified as a fabrication. A meticulous examination reveals that the towering buildings visible in the background have been digitally manipulated using Photoshop. Some of these structures appear unnaturally elongated, which is a common indication of digital alterations. Upon further scrutiny, one can discern the unmistakable signs of subpar Photoshop work, leading to speculation that one of the buildings depicted in the image is, in fact, the iconic Empire State Building located in New York City. Given all the theories and research that have emerged thus far, it raises an intriguing question. Do you believe that time travel is a tangible reality, or is it merely another fantastical aspiration of humankind? We invite you to share your insights and perspectives in the comments section below. If you found this video engaging and thought-provoking, please consider liking, sharing, and subscribing to our channel for more content.